This episode of the Ageless and Awesome podcast is sponsored by the Radiant Reset Hormone Detox Guide for Perimenopausal Women. As a woman in the modern world, our hormones are taking a battering. They're impacted by the food we eat, the toxins we're exposed to, such as when we eat out of plastic takeaway containers, or even worse, reheat food in them. Please don't do this. If you're handling FPOS receipts, filling the car with fuel, eating non-organic produce that hasn't been washed effectively, plus so much more things add to our toxic load every day. Even though our bodies are designed to effectively manage toxins, they haven't evolved as quickly as our toxic world has, unfortunately. So our body does need support. Symptoms such as stubborn weight gain, fatigue, disrupted periods, irritability, and gut health issues can be a sign that you'd benefit from a gentle detox. And that's why I developed the Radiant Reset Hormone Detox Guide for Perimenopausal Women. This free guide has an abundance of information to get you started on your very own DIY detox. And if you'd like to upgrade to VIP, it's only $47 for a limited time. I used to sell this program for $247. The upgrade gives you the recipes, including plenty of plant-based options, the meal planner, the shopping list template, the video workshop, and so much more. Click the link in the show notes to learn more now. Take care of your hormones. They are a critical part of your health as a woman. Hi, I'm Susie Garden, and this is the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm an age-defying naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I'm here to bust myths around women's health and aging so that you can be ageless and awesome in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The Ageless and Awesome podcast is dedicated to helping women through perimenopause and menopause with great health, a positive mindset, and outrageous confidence. Hit subscribe or follow now, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous one, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ageless and Awesome podcast. Before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to let you know that the Thursday episodes of the podcast will no longer be going ahead. Now, the reason for this is you may have noticed over the last few weeks, I've been rerunning a number of flashback episodes, and it's because I'm essentially just a bit too busy to do it. So I've decided just one episode a week is enough because a lot goes into planning, recording, editing, uploading, all of the other material that goes along with the podcast. And so, yeah, I've decided that just one episode a week is enough. So I hope that I haven't disappointed too many people with that. I know it has a pretty good listenership, but that's just the way it is. I want to make sure this continues to have quality and is not kind of becoming a bit of a stressful thing for me to make sure I get 2 episodes a week out. So anyway, announcement over. Let's get into this week's episode. Now, this week's episode came about because I was having a conversation with my sister-in-law, and she mentioned that one of her friends is, she's been prescribed, I believe, what she termed CBD. Now, she wasn't sure whether it was medicinal cannabis or whether it was CBD oil, but she'd been medically prescribed this for her perimenopause symptoms, which I thought was really interesting because I haven't really heard a lot about this in just my general day-to-day kind of experiences with clients. I'm not seeing it coming up in literature and updates and things like that. And so I thought I would have a bit of a look into it. And when I think about it, actually, I remember, I think it was last year, maybe the year before, having a conversation with my GP about my sleep, which you all know about if you're a regular listener of the podcast, is I've struggled with insomnia over a period of many, many years, not knowing, and I'm absolutely positive. Part of it was stress and the kind of work that I was doing where I was crossing multiple time zones every second week and really disrupting my circadian rhythm. And I think part of it was also perimenopause at the time as well. So I'm kind of on top of my sleep now, but when I was going through this journey of working out how to fix it, once I actually realized it was a problem, was having a discussion with my GP about certain options. And she suggested to me CBD oil and also suggested exploring medicinal cannabis. So I have had some experience in this area, but once I started actually looking into the literature around this, there really isn't much at all in the way of serious data relating specifically to perimenopause and menopause. There have been some studies looking at how many women, like as in a percentage of population of women in menopause are using cannabis, but there has been acknowledgement with some of these studies that they've been biased because they've been recruiting women that are interested in cannabis. So it's kind of biases and skews the data a little. So I will preface this episode with saying that firstly, I am not coming at this from an expert point of view. And as in Australia, medicinal cannabis is a prescription and scheduled drug. So it is not within the realm of my prescribing or my in my work as a naturopath and herbalist. However, I do have a bit of knowledge about it. And so I just wanted to make that really clear that this is just educational. It's in no way coming from an expert's point of view. But let's have a look at the cannabis plant, I guess, itself, and theoretically why it might be really useful to address some of the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. So if we look at cannabis, and really it's cannabis, the proper Latin name, Cannabis sativa. It contains, as all of our plants do, many, many different components, many different phytochemicals or plant chemicals, including molecules called cannabinoids. And interestingly, the human body also makes cannabinoids as part of a bigger system called the endocannabinoid system. Big word, endocannabinoid system. So it's funny because you've probably not really heard much about this system, but it's a really critical system in our body and it's involved in nearly every biological process, including things like our metabolism, our digestion, our hormone regulation, our immune system, our ability to regulate our body temperature, our appetite, our memory, our mood, our stress management, our pain, sleep, and many more. And when I'm sure if you're in the perimenopause or menopause at the moment, you would probably are going tick, tick, tick with a lot of these things or systems that the endocannabinoid system is involved with, right? So the thing is with this endocannabinoid system is part of the body's homeostasis mechanism. And if you remember back to high school biology, if you did that as a subject, homeostasis is essentially equilibrium in the body. The body loves equilibrium. We have a lot of mechanisms in our body that keep us at certain set points, such as let's look at temperature regulation. So generally our body temperature, depending on which school you look at, I'm sure when I was a nurse, we were told that our normal temperature was 36.5 to 37.5. And you didn't have a fever unless you're at least 37.5 or over. And I've heard since then, other measures such as 36.1 to 37.1, whatever. It's a pretty tight range, I'm sure you'd agree. And the body likes to be within that tight range. And if we get out of that range, then there are mechanisms in our body to bring us back there. So if the temperature drops too cold, we'll start to shiver. For example, we'll get goosebumps to try and trap air close to the skin to keep us warmer. We will shut down blood supply to our periphery, so our hands and feet or toes and fingers, to try and keep the blood in the center of the body. And that's all there generated to keep us in that temperature range. And if we get too hot, what do? We we sweat, right? And we get kind of thirsty. We want to take kind of our clothes away. We really get driven. There's a real drive to make ourselves cooler. We feel very, very uncomfortable. And it's because our body needs to be in homeostasis, needs to be in that body temperature. And we have these things for these sort of measures or benchmarks for many, many, many different systems in the body. And the endocannabinoid system is part of that homeostatic regulation, keeps us in balance in this equilibrium. Okay, so we have this endocannabinoid system, which makes cannabinoids, which are a little chemical. As I've said, plants also make cannabinoids, which is the cannabis sativa plant. There's a couple of different forms of cannabis, but that's one I'm specifically talking about. And so we make our own cannabinoids as well to keep that equilibrium. Now, the endocannabinoid system also interacts with our sex hormones, right? And research shows that the change in production of estrogens and progesterone during menopause and perimenopause is strongly related to changes in endocannabinoid system activity, which might partly explain many of the symptoms that we experience in that perimenopause transition, and things like the mood swings, depressed mood, anxious mood, lowered libido, difficulty sleeping, a number of different symptoms.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
How would you like to have increased energy, balanced hormones, glowing skin, and your ideal weight in just 3 months? Sounds awesome, right? Imagine having your very own hormone balancing and weight loss strategy totally personalized to you based on your body biochemistry to release excess weight, say goodbye to pesky perimenopause symptoms, and decrease inflammation in your body, which of course leads to decreased inflammaging. That's right, ladies, there are age-defying benefits as well. Oh, and of course, you have me at your fingertips for expert support so you never feel stuck or confused. I love supporting women on their weight loss journeys, and I've packaged up the award-winning Metabolic Balance Program with my signature hormone management system, giving you the Glow Protocol. This 12-week one-to-one coaching program is you and me, nailing down your health and weight loss goals, creating your personalized plan using your blood tests, a thorough health assessment, and your food preferences. And then we get started with me supporting you every step of the way. Even if you've tried everything, even if you have resistant weight and complex medical conditions, the power of personalized nutrition, mindset coaching, and my support is transformational and gets results. And I'm not even exaggerating, even if I do say myself. So if you're ready to embrace feeling like your younger self again, lose excess weight, manage health conditions, and regain your confidence, you can just DM me at Susie Garden Wellness or email me hello@susiegarden.com, and I'll pop a link in the show notes. Potentially can be drawn back to this endocannabinoid system. Remember, the research is very patchy. It hasn't been a well-researched kind of, I want to call it a drug, but it's not really a drug, herbal medicine plant. Let's call it a plant. It hasn't been well-researched in things like menopause or perimenopause. But if you think about it, knowing this information, hypothetically, and obviously this is where some medical people and some scientists are going, is that, well, if we can supplement cannabinoids back into the body, maybe this will help regulate some of these symptoms, these debilitating symptoms that women are having in perimenopause and menopause. And this is where I want to go into the plant a little bit deeper. There are 2 different cannabinoids that are extracted from the flower of this plant, right? So we use the flower. In herbal medicine, we use a whole bunch of different parts of plants. So we might use leaves, we might use roots, we might use bark, we might use flowers, etc. So that's what I love about herbal medicine, is that you can really use with many of these plants the whole plant for even different things. It's really fascinating. And so there are 2 different cannabinoids that are extracted from the flower of the cannabis plant that gets probably the most sort of attention in menopause, are the THC, so the tetrahydrocannabinol, let's just call it THC, and the cannabidiol, which is the CBD. And you've probably, if you've ever read anything about these kinds of products, you would have heard of THC and CBD. Now, THC is the part of the plant, the plant chemical that is the part that gets you high, essentially. They call it the psychoactive part of that plant. And so the THC is what does that. But the CBD does not have the THC in it, does not have those psychoactive properties. So CBD does have fantastic properties, will not give you that euphoria or that high. However, people experience that and their perception of that psychoactive component. You won't get that from the CBD. You will get that from the THC part of the plant. I hope I'm not getting you guys too bogged down in all of this, but it is really important to see the difference, because many people think when they're having their CBD oil that they can get high, and it's just not the case. Hence, you can buy it online. It's not a prescription product. So, if you're getting CBD oil and it has THC in it, that's been added into it, right? It's not part of the CBD, the cannabidiol. So the CBD is really useful because it does have anti-inflammatory properties. It has antioxidant properties. So that's going to help perhaps with pain. And we know that body pain can be a real issue in perimenopause and menopause. Some studies have found that CBD can also reduce anxiety and improve sleep, these are 2 elements that are really common in peri and menopausal women. And so this is the thing. The CBD oil is pretty easy to get. I would say be very mindful of where you're getting it from, because this is a big issue in plant medicine or herbal medicine generally, is are you actually getting what you think you're getting? There are issues with misidentification of herbs, with contamination, with deliberate and intentional switching of herbs. Many herbs look alike. So you need to buy it from a company that is actually doing third-party testing, so that you know that it's actually the CBD oil that you're purchasing. If you're being medically prescribed cannabis, then that's all going to have been done as part of that company's arrangement with the TGA. So you don't need to worry about that. In Australia, I'm very much talking about the Australian context here. So the thing is, does it really work? Well, this is some of the things that we don't actually know. Certainly in terms of when you look at the theory, as we've discussed, and if you look at people's experiences. And that's really important, right? Because even if there is a placebo effect, that's still an effect. And we know that people do report that they get improvement in symptoms with using these sorts of products, which is really cool. But yeah, the thing is, there is no indication at this time for the use of either the medicinal cannabis or CBD oil, although CBD oil, it's not as highly regulated, so they can probably say just about anything about it. But there's no specific research in menopause and perimenopause that's strong, and certainly not indicated in terms of prescribing these things if it's from your doctor. There's no indication specifically for menopause. But if you have certain symptoms, like insomnia is a big one, anxiety is another big one, I'd say they'd probably be the main 2, depression maybe, that you may get benefit from using these products. So in terms of where you could go from here, if you are really struggling with symptoms, for example, if you are someone where menopause hormone therapy used to be known as HRT, now it's known as MHT, if you're not a suitable candidate for that or you don't want to take that, if you've done a whole bunch of improvements in your lifestyle, so the main things that we do from a natural point of view in terms of managing peri and menopausal symptoms is looking at your nutrition. Is your nutrition right for your body? As you know, I do personalized nutrition plans based on blood tests, so you get the exact foods in the exact macro balance and the exact portion sizes for you specifically as an individual. That's optimizing your nutrition. If you're doing it on your own, are you eating a majority of whole foods? So foods that are not coming from a packet, foods that have minimally processed, really removing things like all of your white foods, your white pasta, your white rice, your white bread, etc. White sugar, obviously. So if you're doing that kind of thing, will help reduce inflammation. That can help with pain. That can help with also reducing irritation in the brain, which can help with sleep. On top of that, are you moving your body in a way that brings you joy? Are you managing your stress? This is so important for us when we're in the perimenopausal transition and also post-menopause, because it can, unfortunately, the changes that go on can really reduce our ability to manage large amounts of stress. So if you're doing things to help mitigate that, and it can be as easy as breathing deeply. We all have to breathe. You don't necessarily have to make a separate breathing practice part of your day, although that would be great if you could. Even if you do it when you're lying in bed, even if you do it when you first wake up in the morning, if you have a moment, just to really be mindful when you are breathing. Otherwise, just breathing deeply when you're doing your whatever you do during the day, whether it's driving, shopping, cooking, sitting in front of your computer, sitting in front of the TV, whatever it is. Just using your breath, breathing deeply will help keep your stress levels down. Even leveling it up with some meditation, awesome. But I get that it's not for everybody. So if you're getting in, as I said, nutrition, your stress management, you're staying hydrated, you're moving, your weight is at like a normal. When I say normal, I'm using inverted commas. I really struggle a little bit with the concept of normal weight. I would much rather look at your body composition and look at your muscle mass versus your fat percentage. I think that is way more relevant than looking at a certain weight, what we would call normal in inverted commas weight. So if you've got all of that sitting in a good place and you're still getting symptoms, then perhaps this is a conversation to have with your GP. To see if there is something there for you that's going to help you manage your symptoms. So I hope this has been somewhat helpful. I guess the main things I wanted to bring across is that this is a possible option when you feel like you've really exhausted all of your options. Also that you are very informed when you are sourcing your product. So whether it's CBD oil, that's a bit trickier. If it's the medicinal cannabis that's prescribed by a doctor, that's going to be a product that is TGA approved. It's a restricted drug, so there's a lot of regulation around that. That's easy. CBD oil, not so much. So be mindful about where you're getting yours from. I think that was probably about it, all I wanted to say. So I hope that has helped giving you a little bit of understanding about a potential option if you're really struggling with your perimenopause and menopause symptoms. And as someone that's been through all of that myself, I can tell you, like, if you can find something to really help, it's a game changer in terms of your ability to just keep healthy for a start, physically healthy, mentally healthy, and able to just get on with life and enjoy your life. So if you are experiencing symptoms and it's really starting to impact you, really start to prioritize this. We're getting towards the end of the year. We're getting to that point of the year where we start to think about, well, what do I want for 2025? What do I want for next year? Do I want things to continue as they are, as they've been this year in 2024? Are you happy where that is? How is it different from 2023? Were you having the same conversation with yourself towards the end of last year as you're having this year? If you're in that space, then perhaps look at, okay, what needs to change? I've just given you a whole bunch of options that can help. Go back through the back catalog of the podcast. Have a look. I do have some blogs on my website. I've got a pretty active social media presence as well on Instagram, Susie Garden Wellness. There's a lot of free content that I offer. That I also have very specific, very tailored and unique programs for the individual as well. So feel free to check that out on my website at susiegarden.com, specifically for my ladies with peri and menopause. Look at the Glow Protocol. All right. So any questions, do let me know. You can message me on Instagram, or you can send me an email, hello@susiegarden.com. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Ageless and Awesome podcast. If you liked today's episode, please make sure you click the little plus button if you're on Apple Podcasts, or the follow button if you're on Spotify, so that you get each new episode delivered to you every week. If you like free stuff, then head to the show notes and click the link to receive my free Radiant Reset Hormone Detox Guide for perimenopausal women. Or if you'd like to continue the discussion, head over to Instagram and DM me at Susie Garden Wellness. I'd love to connect with you.